Right now, we're going to talk about 3 triggers you must be aware of that can fill your stress bucket. If you have chronic symptoms, then your brain and nervous system are in a chronically stressed state. The problem is many people who come to us are not aware of everything that is triggering them, which fills their stress bucket and can be the very reason they're still sick. They believe that they must be sick from only Lyme, mold, the foods they're eating, etc., but they fail to recognize that the way they are responding to past and current stressors in life can actually be creating more inflammation than the food or the toxins themselves. I'm Nick Hanna.
And I'm Brooklyn Hanna.
And we're Christian brain rewiring coaches helping you reverse chronic symptoms. Feel free to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for a new video we post every week.
A question you may be asking is, what do you mean by triggers? When I say triggers, I mean things that cause you to spiral into negative thinking patterns and emotions. This is what causes the chaotic stress response in the first place. The crazy thing is that many people have dozens or even hundreds of triggers that they're not even aware of. They are actually in the subconscious mind, and you just react to these things without even really knowing it. You have a built-in unhealthy default response to these triggers, which heightens your stress response. If you stay stuck in negative thinking patterns and emotions, it will be very difficult to heal from the fight, flight, or freeze response, which is what is actually causing your chronic symptoms. Now let's get into identifying your own triggers. Since everyone has different triggers, you're going to have to identify your own. You're going to do this by standing back and observing yourself for a while. So when do you lash out in anger towards your spouse or kids or someone else? When do negative thoughts take over? When do you use negative and angry words? These are things that can happen after your brain has perceived a danger or a threat. The problem isn't necessarily the trigger themselves, but the way your brain has responded to this trigger before. Once your brain has responded with a negative thought or emotion, or several of them I should say, it begins to label it as a threat and become a trigger over time unless you change the way you perceive and respond to that trigger.
So, we're going to give you a few of the most common triggers that, if go unaddressed, can fill your stress bucket quickly. In going through these, see which ones that you identify with. The first is when someone says something mean to you or disagrees with you. This is extremely common. So have you ever felt revved up and just angry when someone says, "You're wrong, you need to do it this way"? Or how about when someone angrily argues that there is no God? That can cut deep because maybe Christ is your everything. I know it is for me and her. This can really set you off only if you let it, though.
Only if you let it.
That's right. Of course, we always recommend that you remain calm and respond as Christ would. We must strive to act in love. How? Look to the biblical definition of love, which is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 8 in particular. Getting angry at someone or a situation is going to definitely harm you and possibly those around you. So ask yourself, what people, conversations, topics, etc. trigger you?
Number 2, something in the environment that you've been avoiding. When you avoid something for a period of time, your brain is going to perceive it as a fear if you reintroduce it later. If you've been avoiding things in the environment for your health, such as mold, EMF, chemicals, certain foods, etc., your brain will perceive them as a threat, as you may become triggered in your mind when they're reintroduced, like I said. So your brain may say, "Oh no, I can't have this banana. Last time I was tired afterwards, so I'm going to be tired this time too." That's an example. So in our brain retraining program, instead of avoiding these things completely, we recommend training your brain to become less stressed so you can tolerate the things in the environment. With the limbic system dysfunction, your brain perceives even the smallest bits of stress, such as toxins in the environment or foods, as a threat and reacts. The avoidance and building up of constant fear can be a bigger problem than the environment itself. It's really hard to heal with all that fear. So we believe the root cause to most chronic symptoms is a dysfunctional limbic system. And no, we don't believe that living in a building with mold covered on the walls or living under a cell tower is great for your health.
Obviously.
But we also don't believe that you should be on a 10-food diet for multiple years, avoid all buildings and self-isolation, and fear being near cell phones. So these are all danger responses in the brain that can be wired out by balancing your limbic system. So as of now, what things in the environment would trigger you? What have you been avoiding?
Number 3, when your chronic symptoms are present. It can be so hard not to spiral into negative thinking patterns and emotions when you wake up in the morning and you're feeling tired, in pain, down on yourself, worried, or whatever it is. And oftentimes our brain wants to start predicting our whole day or even the whole week this way. Then you may try to obsessively search on Google for the answer to your symptoms. Although you may have had good intentions in doing this, you are actually creating a worse stress response in doing this. The best thing to do in this situation is to take your focus off of your symptoms and focus on something that is positive and happy, like God. It can be so easy to focus on the bad, but there is always something to be good to be found in your day. You can achieve this mindset. Psalms 118:24 says, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." So ask yourself, when do you tend to focus on your symptoms? It may be at certain times of the day, or when you're around people or in social settings. So there are the 3 triggers.
Like I said, with limbic system dysfunction, it's common to be stressed and triggered by even the smallest little things. However, the good news is that with brain retraining, you can get out of the stress response and eventually almost nothing triggers you. It's so freeing. So you'll be able to eat the foods, be around the EMF, go to the buildings and not even get triggered. So you can also take negative comments from people and just be like, oh well, and just kind of shake it off really easily. It's not about avoiding the triggers because let's be real, generally speaking, those are not going to change. We live in this world. And it's about retraining your brain to not respond to these triggers and create a stress response anymore. Want help with this? Join our free Facebook group called Brain Rewiring for Health and Happiness. The link is below. Also, if you're interested in working with us in our program where people are showing up every week with a list of wins and getting their life back, you can fill out an application below for a free call. We look forward to hearing from you. God bless.
And Godspeed.